Yitzchak, you want to take questions and comments now?
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, questions and comments? Go ahead.
You give a lot of information in very general terms. How many kids do you think were ultimately kidnapped? How many kids do you think were ultimately illegally adopted?
Somewhere between 10 and 20,000. Okay? That sounds wild. We're not talking about 800. Okay? This is massive. Okay? Just for the people that come to me. Okay? Just the people that come to me and tell me stories of my twin was kidnapped in 1963. We're originally from Iran. Okay? In Hadassah in Kerem. My brother was kidnapped in Yaffo at this Catholic hospital. Yesterday on Facebook, this Israeli guy, who has his brother's name, said en route to Israel in 56 in Marseille, the brother was at 2 years old, the brother was kidnapped in the Machane Ma'avar. Okay? This is very organized. I know I brought back one family. It didn't work. It was too painful for both sides, okay? So the girl that was kidnapped in 56 from Machane David, from a Turkish family, I brought her together with her family. Twice they met, and of course, it was just too much. It wasn't going to work. He couldn't repair what it was, and the daughter had a new life and whatever. But this is a very severe thing, okay? And Timmy, it's not the statistics here. If it was 7,000 and I'm wrong and it wasn't 10,000, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. The bigger question for me is, did anybody notice that you've got all these white couples adopting Sephardic kids?
Afterward, Rafi, let him answer that, okay? There are a lot of things I don't know.
Excuse me.
Okay? Yes, but it wasn't an issue, though. It wasn't an issue on a mass scale. Obviously, people picked up on it.
I do know somebody, a woman, who was adopted by a survivor couple. They adopted her from her parents. Her parents had 11 children. They paid off and they took her to America, and that's where she grew up until she was 30. She had children already. She never knew. She went back to Israel to meet her real parents, and then she came back to America.
So, what you're
That
describing,
was a survivor.
right? What you're
Because they couldn't
describing,
have children.
right? You're describing something normative, though. That's something organized. Okay, nothing's criminal here. All right. What we're talking about is pulling the wool over the new immigrants. Okay.
It's true. It's what the parents told the
Right, as an alibi. But let's take it.
She went back.
Let's take it for face value.
In Israeli media, there were several cases where an adoptee met her biological parents, and they told her a much different story than what you heard earlier from the adoptive parents. So,
Right. No, obviously there's a cover-up. There's a difference of, let's say, we'll say, okay, obviously that sounds like something that was normative. That doesn't.
The adopted
She looked
parents
like
may not have been guilty anyway, because they may not have known the true story.
Of course they
All
didn't.
wanted-
But they have an
wanted to
illegal
adopt a
child.
baby.
But they have an illegal child, and that's part of the fear. That was their fear of talking, and that was the children's fear.
They know the child was illegal. If they get the child through Hadassah, let's say,
They don't know it's
they don't know the child.
No, but by the 80s,
The mother died in childbirth.
no, but by the 80s, people understood that something is very, very fishy. Okay, at the time, okay, no, not necessarily. Okay, they didn't know about all the gangs kidnapping.
But did you
Okay.
expect them, if they found out 10 years later, to
20
come
years
forward and say,
later,
hey, I'm one of those parents?
No, because first of all, the whole thing is, you know what? There are also laws I didn't realize that were made against the adopted parties not to talk. It was an illegal in the 50s. Israel made a law
but
that was
now they're changing the
right. Okay,
Nowadays.
that's also probably because of the public pressure. I mean, that's ridiculous. If you were adopted, you can't talk about it. You could go to prison for saying you were adopted. Okay, it's a painful thing, but that already adds a tint on it. Is like this is all part of the cover-up. Yeah.
There's two things. First of all, if what you're saying is true, and I believe it is, 42 years ago I heard the same thing from many Yemenites when I met Aliyah. So I know that this is, I didn't realize how widespread in different parties. Was there any party or anyone in the government who tried to stop this at all? No record, nothing?
No. Only in the Knesset, so this Baruch Uziel spoke against it. There were a few Mapayniks who spoke against it, and immediately they were shut up. Okay?
And they
What years? What years?
66.
The Yemenite representative in Herut, he spoke against.
In 66 also? Then?
In 52, he said, is a Yemenite child a merchandise? In the Israeli parliament.
This woman was,
Yeah.
There's been three things I want to mention, I'm sorry. One is there was a children's book, I read an article about this. There was a children's book published in the 1950s about a Kadurim family, and they hired someone to help out with the housework and the children. They hired a child, and they described that she was coming from this dirty background, and the father just wanted money. The father was shown in the pictures like a Yemenite, dark skin, everything. It was unbelievable. These people thought that they were giving these children a better life, taking them away from their
We Jews, we have a problem with racism, okay? In 1881, the Yemenites who came with goodwill, religious Yemenite traditional people, were exploited. They were thrown out of the Shiloach neighborhood outside the old city. What happened in Kfutzat Kinneret was terrible. They were exploited. They were made practically like slaves, then thrown out. Okay, so it's like this is wait. But, no, thrown out by Jews, Ashkenazim, on the kibbutz. What do you mean? Okay, and the Jewish agency.
No, and she means a Shiloach. It's by the Arab riots in 36.
No, that's much later. But you see, there was a pecking. Wait. Yeah, but no, we're talking about 1881. All right, the Sephardim, the Ladino speakers from the Balkans, they also treated the Yemenites and the non-Balkan Judeo-Spanish speakers terribly. Okay, so it's a whole. Today we can talk about a lack of tolerance and multiculturalism, but there's a whole pecking order. So it's wait. So the precedent was not just 1949. Okay, so there's a whole problem of the dynamic of tolerance and dealing with difference and exploitation, and so you have groups just like the Ashkenazim were very arrogant. So those Sephardim, or the Vadida Sephardim, which was the Sephardic Council of Jerusalem for 700 years, they also were very arrogant. Okay, but they weren't involved in the kidnapping. But so the stigmas against the dark Jew or the other Jew or the Yemenites, etc., okay, already existed. So wait, but you already have the racism with the Ethiopians already in the 20s when when groups of students came here to learn. Okay, they also were tricked, and only one was allowed to graduate. You had all sorts, and that's okay. It's like it's a much bigger picture. Okay, the Jews don't want to come to terms with their own discrimination. Okay, and then so in 49, let's say this all busts open in a political ploy. Go on.
The second question I have is, I'm talking about in America. People, let's say, from America coming here, take a Yemenite child. I know Yemenites are very charismatic looking, everything's like, whatever. Bringing them back to America in the 1950s, where a Yemenite would be seen as dark skinned, they wouldn't be able to go into a store, a restaurant.
Well, you have a very good point. I don't have an answer, but this was very well planned. Okay, there were lawyers in Israel who could never come back to Israel because they were involved in all this hanky-panky. Okay, but it's a combination of things. Okay, so it's like, oh, he's an Israeli boy. All right, he's darker. All right, we're all talking about the signals at the time. Most people obviously didn't pick up on that.
But if they were Jewish,
Yemenites sound black. They're not brown. They're not even brown.
Well, it depends, but
that way. But it's a story about it's a funny story. The Jewish judge in the South, and he had his daughter-in-law and their whole family with him, and they went into this park, and they heard the person say, "Oh, I didn't know the judge so-and-so liberal, because they thought it was an interracial marriage, because the Yemenites would have been seen as dark.
Right, no, you're very right in terms of American racial ethnicity in the 50s, okay? Those were the dark ages, okay? There was segregation. When I was a little kid, I remember segregation on buses, okay? In the north.
How would Jewish families in New York, Chicago, LA, how could they get away with a dark-skinned child?
Well, it was, you know, in LA, hardly anybody was there, okay? But Tira, the issue is, though, how, let's say, how did Ben Gurion and his sickness pull off all of this? You know, I interviewed, okay, Ben Gurion had two assistants. They did the dirty work. Shraga Netzer, he was the head of the sweepers union, okay? He did the dirty work for the labor. And Mentesh was a Sephardi, like the founder of the Israeli mafia from Salonika. He came in the 30s, he organized the port workers. These are off-color characters, okay? Mentesh did a lot of things for the Miflaga, for the party, you know? It's like when you look at these type of rogue characters, and we know today, you wouldn't put it past them, but it's much deeper than that. Because how is it that the National Religious Party is acting with the same shenanigans, and Aguda, and Mapam? Mapam was very doctrinaire, very Stalinist, okay?
I believe you about my mom, but I can't believe the other people do this.
We do not know. Here's the thing. I was talking to, I don't want to give his name. He's an author. He's considered very harif, okay? Very, very extreme, okay? There are people who think that if he wasn't Mizrahi, he should get a Nobel Prize already. All right? He was saying that even in the case of Morocco, the Zionists forcefully took the kids on Aliyah. Daniel Ben Daniel Ben, what's his last name?
Daniel
Ben whatever. All right, he's under attack now. He's a Moroccan kid who came in 71, made it, wrote for Haaretz, was in the Knesset, okay? But he basically was chatuf, taken forcefully. Ben Simon. Him and his sister were taken forcefully for youth aliyah. Okay, we don't understand the dynamic. I can't believe that a shaliach in America would go to a suburb and really, you know, threaten the parents, give me your kid to go to Israel, okay? But they could pull that off in the Arab world, okay? And the question is, this is a rogue personality that existed in the 50s that we don't know. When Olim came to Haifa from the Holocaust or wherever they came in the Arab and Sephardic world, okay, at Beit Olim, you had to take the red Histadrut communist card. And if you didn't, people like Moshe Shachal and his gang would beat you up, or they threaten you. And you know, and then there's the connotation. Okay, this is not the Israel we know today. Okay, and so to put it past all of these rogue parties it would be a little bit too innocent today. Okay, we obviously don't really understand the total picture. We're getting there. Okay, and it's because of the protest. But if you look at that type of personality, the kidnapping personality, you know, today. Remember when that boy in Savion was kidnapped in what was it in I was in the army 79, 80? You know, the whole country went wild. You know, and in the end, this lunatic, this artist Ben Gur or something killed him. Yeah, and the guy's been in jail ever since. Okay, the whole Medina was up in arms about that. But in the 40s and in 49 and 50 and onward, it was like nothing ever happened. But I would say pejoratively, not an academic, pejoratively always because it was the darkies. But it's seriously much more than that. This was covered up, camouflaged, much bigger, very sophisticatedly organized. Yeah, let Larry.
Yitzchak, two questions. How do you think this was organized, and what was the role of the government and the parties? And what was the motivation for selling kids outside of Israel?
To make money.
And what?
No, but I told you. So they wanted to create devoted party members. So you got a problem? Like the mafia, I'll help you out, okay? You need a loan? Okay, I'll give you what you want. I'll give you in cash. I'll give you 70,000 shekels in cash, and you're going to be mine.
How was this
You're
organized?
part of my Tammany Hall.
How was
okay?
this organized? Yitzchak?
We don't know how exactly it was organized.
What was the role of the government?
They denied it.
So
Another, wait. You're a Yemen. Let's say you're a Yemenite couple. The mother is breastfeeding the baby. She takes the baby to the infirmary, and then all of a sudden, the next morning or an hour later, your son died. What?
No, but
My son. Wait, no. This is what we. Okay.
Well, it doesn't say how it was organized.
Wait,
That's an
wait.
incident that happened. What was going on behind it?
We don't know.
You don't know.
Okay. We just know. We know the tip of the iceberg. Okay. Another. We don't know if.
So we don't know how it was organized.
We don't know.
Was it like the black
We
market?
found.
Was it like the black market in the 60s, 70s with Hefker? All of a sudden developed the
No. We don't know.
No, it wasn't organized.
All right, we
like
don't know
that.
the dynamic. Obviously, the parties were fighting, okay, because they wanted more. You know, they were fighting to get more. Okay, they wanted more people for their party. Okay, it's going to strengthen the party. More babies we get for our party. Obviously, internally there was obviously that kind of infighting. We don't know the dynamic. We don't know. Okay, Mapai. You know, it's like of the testimonies. We know there were like Hashomer Hatzayir Kibbutznikim, but there had to be Kibbutz Amuchad people. Okay, it's the same doctrinaire parties. It was Mapam actually at the time. We haven't, I don't think we've asked those questions yet, okay? You take a kibbutz like Beit HaShita. I saw on TV the other night, you know. They talk, you have the macho kibbutzniks and all the cold kibbutzniks, you know, talking about the Pilu, when they separated over Stalinism. So, the staunch socialists and pro-Stalinists stayed at Beit HaShita, and those who were more liberal and couldn't take it and condemned Stalin, they went to Ayelet HaShachar, okay? You look at these people, they're not going to, they're as cold as bricks. If Tabankin gave the order, they would go anywhere and do whatever they had to do. They're not going to talk about it. They don't look like the type of people who would have talked about it. The group that was there, they were 20-year-old macho, whatever, okay, women too. People like that obviously participated, and it's...
But do you think it was organized or it
Oh,
happened?
for sure. It wasn't, you can't just say the parents are responsible. This was a mass ploy, okay? This isn't a conspiracy theory. This was a mass ploy, okay? Remember, Tzachi Hanegbi, it doesn't matter, he was a political party student radical, okay? Tzachi Hanegbi, the cabinet minister now, in charge of the Yemenite, the kidnapping question, said this week that hundreds of babies were kidnapped, okay? All right? Deliberately, okay, right. That they were, okay? Okay, it was organized. We don't know that. Maybe Rafi here and there has heard things which I don't know, okay? But that we'll get to. But we're not, once the documents open up, we're going to get lists of who the drivers were, who were the personnel in the Mabarot, who, okay, and then we'll learn about what is the connect. You'll see correspondence between Vitzo and this Mabara and the Jewish Agency and the Israeli Ministry of Absorption. They're in general, we don't know. You know that there was the Sochnut, the Jewish Agency, and you know that there was the Israeli government. But there's like interlapping. There's duplicity. It's like this we haven't thought of.
But when you say Vitzo or Hadassah, that means that the management of Vitzo and Hadassah planned this or staff at these institutions.
I
We
won't
don't
even.
know that yet.
No, I don't think we can answer it that way. But we know they participated. They were very active. You know, I talked to my brother. He's like a kibbutznik. He's a funny guy. He said, you know, you're really insulting. What's her name? Vera Jaglon or whatever. Okay, come on. You know, but Rafi, for example, I talked to him last week. I talked about Bebe Hiddleston. Okay, this lady was capable of things like that. Okay, she's part of the party. Remember, they were social democrats, but essentially it's a Stalinist type movement, okay? It's a Bolshevik type movement, okay? These are Eastern Europeans who are, who knows what chicanery is part of their mentality, okay? To think, okay? To talk about all this, for us Jews to talk about this, we think we're moralistic people, okay? Everyone here can find an Isur in the Talmud and in Musar and Chazal about all such a behavior. I mean, come on, we did not think that the Jewish state was as horrendous.
Your work is very, to me, very admirable, and you list some of the projects that you're working on. I very much would like to hear, in your quest for justice, which ones were successful.
Things that I have a theory that if the whole Jewish people unite and pray for something and lobby, then it happens, okay? So since the age of 14, 15, we've seen all of Syrian Jews get out. Since I was, that was my first activism. I was involved for 16 years in the struggle to free Soviet Jewry. I worked with Avital Sharansky for a few months. And she was dejected and she was crying. She goes, "Do you really think I'm going to ever see my husband?" And I said, "Yeah, you will. It's going to take time, but you will, It's like, we beat them. The West, but it's not the organized establishment. It's the counterculture.
And the students.
Yes, the Jewish students and all sorts of fringe people, and all sorts of housewives, and like there's this woman Judy something in Toronto. From her kitchen, she smuggled out 30,000 Jews from Syria in the 70s. Okay, she didn't know Arabic. She just from being an activist in Soviet Jewry, she just got hooked on this. She got out some of the. There's the Aleppo Codex, and then there's also the Damascus Codex. There were about 11 versions of the Damascus Codex. She succeeded about 4 years ago, before the Civil War started, getting out the Damascus Codex. We have it now. We have like 7 of the 9 or 11 versions in the National Library now. So this is all part of it, okay? But here we have a problem of East versus West, okay? Orientalism. The Jews look at themselves as West and are not really in the East. But a lot of our people and a lot of our geniusness is from the East. And the discrimination is West versus East. And this is part of it. To pull off all these hoaxes, you have to you have a perversion toward the East, okay? The Jewish world does not want to relate to the issue of East versus West. And certainly not the Israeli government, okay? They can't handle it. They don't understand it. They're not ready for that type of argument. America doesn't understand East versus West. To let what happened in Syria happen, okay, now, okay? It's not just people under this rogue regime, We see what's erupted here. It's just the beginning, okay? Erdogan is a serious headache for the world, okay? And this is all part. He's a mutation of the East, and the West has totally not been able to contend with him. He's this fluke of history, but it's the East rebounding, okay? There's good sides and bad sides, okay? This is a certain Islam, which is a perversion in the East, okay? And the West can't relate to it. They could care less. Trump could care less. Hillary could care less. Bernie Sanders doesn't know what we're talking about, okay? And England, well, remember some of these people from the colonies, No, it's like, these are big issues today, You can't just say, okay, the Muslims in India are more moderate. You have extremism there. We don't know how to contend with the East. We don't know how to. In the East, the youth have a tremendous amount of frustration. Okay, their models are the West, right? But they're repressed. Okay, so that you have some new freedom, but you have a tremendous amount of exploitation. Okay, and then ignorance and ignoring. Okay, ignoring the East is not good, okay? So here, in our Jewish scenario, we are ignoring the Jews of the East who really are on, how would you say, it's high culture. I've been trying for 5 years now, actually 30 years, to start a Sephardic Museum in Jerusalem. We can't get the land, okay? I started a foundation in Los Angeles and an Amutah here, okay? The Jerusalem municipality doesn't want a Sephardic museum, okay? Hasidei Gur, which controls Barkat, doesn't want a Sephardic museum. They don't want Sephardic Jewry, the Jews of the East, portrayed as the high culture. They want to ignore it, or they want to put it down. It's a threat to them. It's not an anecdote. It's a threat, okay? And the Jewish world cannot handle this diversity, okay? It's also a political threat. What do we care about that? So what if for Likud, if they get a little more intelligent? Well, it doesn't. This is our heritage. What? Right. Okay. Right. This is our heritage. Believe me, the establishment puts down Yiddish. Okay. There's this house in Tel Aviv, a 7-floor house called Beit Levik in North Tel Aviv. The Yiddish Writers Association for 80 years. Okay. It's like decaying. The Ashkenazi world has put that down. Okay. It's the issue. We don't relate to multiculturalism. We don't relate to Jewish ethnicity. We've seen the wearing down of the Zionist ethic, okay, but we really as a society cannot relate to diversity. When I told the New Israel Fund recently about even to have a meeting for the Sephardic, they laughed at me, okay. And I said, you're really discriminatory, Oh, but we help a few Sephardic organizations. No, you're really ignoring the society. You're ignoring issues. What is Shas? Shas is the how would you say not the rebuttal. It's the backlash of the Ashkenazi establishment secularizing Israel, the Mizrahim not being able to learn in yeshivot, not being accepted in the Ashkenazi Haredi world, trying to do something else, turned out totally skewed. Okay, they have a little bit of a social message, and basically they're let's say a wagtail of the rightist nationalist governments. Okay, they're not doing anything to advance Sephardic culture, Sephardic rabbinic tradition. It's much more complicated than the rabbinic establishment in Israel says Sephardic halakha is worthless. Okay. The Sephardic psikot are worthless, okay? Sephardic poskim are worthless, okay? If you want to say the Sephardim don't rate, you're actually poo-pooing some of the elite, okay? The Portuguese elite, mostly in Amsterdam and Holland, and most of them were killed in the Holocaust. But to ignore that, to look at Sephardic culture as low culture, as all the others is not relevant, okay, you're really doing injustice, okay? These Portuguese Jews are amazing, okay? They were in America before the Ashkenazim came in 1840, okay? They were part of the American Revolution. They did a lot of things for religious freedom in the United States, okay? This is not part of the narrative. It's not even part of the narrative in that stupid museum in Philadelphia of the American Jewish experience, which cost $150 million, okay? That's how stupid world Jewry is in American Jewry, okay? You don't even know you're right. So you put a picture of one or two guys, who are big in the military or something. No, that's not the story, okay? The Jews, they can't cognitively relate to the fact that we're a multicultural people. Academia can't relate. The museums of the world, the Jewish and the Holocaust museums, can't relate to the Holocaust as a multicultural event. Sephardim and Mizrahim were killed in 18 countries. So that stupid Beatone report doesn't even mention the Holocaust. It replaces it with pilgrimages to venerable saints in Morocco. It's not the same. You're avoiding the issues, okay? There are all sorts of issues. It's also what the Sephardim did in the Zionist movement. And it's also, to show that the Jews were all over, and the history is not only here, okay? The history in the book starts with the first Aliyah and the second Aliyah, except for people know that there was something in Tzfat, in the 1500s. The Sephardim and the old Yeshuv, which are Ashkenazim, they don't exist, okay? For a Sephardi, if you're really erudite, the Palestinian issue and the refugee issues don't really matter. The Sephardim in this city were kicked out of Mamilla, they were kicked out of By here, where the Moroccan neighborhood, I always mix up the name, okay, where the Moroccan Museum, Ohel Yehuda, and they were kicked out of,
Not actually kicked out, they were
bought out, forced out, okay? No, it's not semantics, okay, there's a lot of literature. And in Mishkanot Shananim, etc., and in Tel Aviv, whoa, what kind of stories you have today about, I forgot the neighborhoods now. Okay. Not Tshuva and the Chakchurian. Okay, yeah.
Now we all know that there was vehement objection to what was going on. What was the name of that rabbi? Rabbi Uri.
The Uzi Meshulam.
Yeah, Meshulam. And from what I understand, they made him crazy. They poisoned him.
They broke him in jail. After he came out, he was a vegetable. But it was because of him that this Kedmi commission was formed as apologetic as this Kedmi commission was, at least in the total picture, it advanced the awareness. Okay, and made the blood boiling, because if researchers aren't allowed to appear, and families aren't allowed to appear, and non-Yemenites are not allowed to appear, people's
rabbis certainly aren't.
And so people's blood is boiling, okay? And so people like Rafi, they're not going to let this down. He puts out a newsletter every 2 days, okay, about new cases, okay? It's like, this isn't going to die, okay? But Uzi Meshulam, they framed him, they branded him, okay? And what I wanted to say also, this we don't know about, but he claimed there were 5,000 babies were killed and used as guinea pigs for medical experiments in America. All right? I would just say, knowing we know everything, and especially about the ringworm and the radiation, the question is, what are we talking about? Okay? And obviously, it's really like going to find out the documents. Okay? When we find out the documents, when certain people will talk, it's never planned. It will happen, but in some way which we can't even speculate, okay? These things are going to come out, okay?